Today I'd like to discuss The Mandalorian, specifically the differences for me from Season 1 to Season 2. If anyone watches my videos today, you might see a very optimistic Star Wars fan, someone willing to try all the new material like the High Republic, and someone who doesn't try to overreact to casting news. But for the launch of The Mandalorian Season 1, I was in a much more bitter place. I was angry at Disney for the disappointment of the sequel trilogy, and I was determined to not like anything that they produced. Watching the first season of The Mandalorian, I made several comments to friends that it was overrated, overhyped, and it's simply just fans who love anything Disney does putting it out there. I'd like to revisit those thoughts, talk about the disappointment of Season 1 for me, and why it changed with the release of Season 2. Let's get into it. The Mandalorian arrived in November of 2019 as the first major release for the new Disney Plus streaming platform. And for many, the show was instantly a hit. Whether it was the Old West renegade with his code of honor, whether you loved the lovable little child who provided the story mystery and heart, or you just enjoyed the New Republic grit that reminded us all of the original series we loved so much, the show immediately struck a chord with the fans. I, however, found myself in a slightly different boat. With episode 1 and 2, I was immediately hooked, but as the episodes continued to go along, I found myself feeling unfulfilled and a little disappointed. And when The Rise of Skywalker released in December, I found myself bitter towards Star Wars and having no interest to return. However, with a year passing and the release of The Mandalorian Season 2, I found myself not only fully invested in this new chapter, but completely reinvigorated my love for Star Wars. Today I want to talk about the difference between Season 1 and Season 2, and what changes were made to get a fan like me back on board. So I went into Mandalorian a little bit skeptic. Episode 1, 2, and 3, or Chapter 1, 2, and 3, really were a hit for me. I thought, okay, we're moving in the right direction with Star Wars. I loved the swagger of The Mandalorian. I loved just the whole Old West feel. I felt immediately invested. I loved the intrigue with the child, and my hopes were extremely high for the show. The following episodes, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6, really did not hit for me. And The Mandalorian runs into an interesting problem. Because it releases on a weekly basis, it feels like there's a long passage of time. If I were to just binge watch the 8 episodes of The Mandalorian, I might feel a little bit differently because the story might move a lot quicker and you might feel yourself kind of glazing over those low moments. The episodes to me were beginning to feel very much like a fetch quest. Like every episode we'd go to a planet, meet some characters I wasn't that interested in, do a silly side mission, and off we went. I felt like there was no build. There was nothing I was excited to see. The mystery of the child that they had introduced early on, I didn't see where it was going. I didn't really buy into the story. While the technical execution of The Mandalorian was phenomenal, and the talent on the directing and writing staff is just unmatched, I felt like the show was so empty and flat. And unfortunately, I stopped on Chapter 6. I never watched Episode 7 or Episode 8. I vowed that I would return for Season 2 if I felt like they were moving the show in the right direction. But because of the disappointment in the sequel trilogy and my overall boredom with this, I turned away from Star Wars. Enter Season 2 of The Mandalorian. When I returned to rewatch Season 1 of The Mandalorian, I found myself having similar complaints still, but actually finishing Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 did add a level of intrigue. Obviously, the reveal of the Darksaber at the end of Chapter 8 was a big fan hit. This, of course, had been spoiled for me due to the fact that I waited so long to watch it, but it definitely added on to the excitement for me. Moff Gideon was a very formidable villain, and I really loved the acting behind him and was excited to see where the show went next. Chapter 9, The Marshal, signified to me a big turn from Season 1 to Season 2. While this felt like, again, another fetch quest where we went to a different location and did a little side mission, this one provided so much more to me, the fan. Obviously, we get the Boba Fett armor, a fan favorite. The main reason I liked Star Wars as a kid was for Jango Fett and Boba Fett. So, of course, they're providing fan service to me. But not only did we have that cool armor, we actually had a really fun side mission. Instead of simply taking out an AT-AT, we had a giant sand dragon working alongside the Tusken Raiders. This is a kind of fetch quest I will gladly spend 40 minutes watching. In Chapter 10, again, we had another simple fetch quest that turned out to be so much more. With the Razor Crest having to outmaneuver the New Republic X-Wings, your heart couldn't help but smile at this great, space battle, right? This great chase. And then you crash land on a planet that turns out to be not only a cool aesthetic, right? Very icy, similar to Memories of Hoth, but also you get these very creepy, very just awesome looking ice spiders. So in the first 2 episodes of the season already, we're seeing the scale go up. We're fighting giant creatures. Our lives are on the line. Our ships are getting destroyed. The momentum was there. The pacing was there. I was hooked. Chapter 11. This is an obvious one. First of all, in a minor way, I love the planet we're visiting. I absolutely love the aesthetic, the rain, the darkness, the ocean-filled lands, and of course, the return of a character we all know from our animated adventures, Bo-Katan. You see, these characters we're being introduced to get me excited. Now, I understand to bring these out in season 1 would have probably not have been a smart option, right? Give the fans something to build towards. And so for that, I give the show credit. My impatience with season 1 was immediately being paid off in season 2. Why new characters like Cara Dune were introduced to, I didn't immediately gravitate towards. A character I know like Bo-Katan was easy to immediately fall in love with. While Chapter 12, The Siege, felt very similar to a Season 1 episode for me, even this just worked better. I thought the action scenes were more choreographed. I thought the espionage was more fun. It just felt like it was moving at a much quicker pace. The action was there, the tension was there, and so episodes that might not have worked as well for me in Season 1 were just working in Season 2. Chapter 13, Raise the Bar. For many of us, the debut of Ahsoka Tano was the main hook of this season. I'm a huge prequels fan. I love the Clone Wars. I'm rewatching it again as we speak. And to see Ahsoka Tano make her appearance on the little screen was something we had waited for years. And what an entrance they gave her. The opening scene, eerie, ominous, awesome. The episode in general, the lighting, the tone, the feel, so gripping. It was at this moment the show had completely won me back. I went from a Mandalorian skeptic to a Mandalorian superfan. And if you thought Chapter 13 was the high point of the series, Chapter 14 arrives with the long-awaited return of Boba Fett. Growing up, I was a Fett superfan. Jango Fett and Boba Fett were my 2 favorite characters from Star Wars. I had their toys, I had their armors, I had their blasters. They were everything I loved about Star Wars as a young child. Seeing them both fall was one of my saddest moments of watching Star Wars. And to finally see Dad bod Boba Fett return, doing some serious damage, something I'd wanted to see, a Fett actually show up and remind everyone how cool they could be, was so worth the wait. I was beginning to be reminded that sometimes you have to wait to be rewarded. And my frustration with Season 1 of Mandalorian was melting away completely. Chapter 15 returned to a similar pacing that we were used to for The Mandalorian. However, with a fan favorite returning like Bill Burr, this episode reminded me of the Season 1, The Prisoner episode. But again, in Season 2, everything just worked better. The scale was larger. The pirate battle on a moving cargo was just awesome. The heartfelt moment between Bill Burr and the Imperial leader. The Mandalorian having to take off his mask to try to get Grogu back. Mando giving up his honor for this character really pulled our heart in. The new Boba Fett re-armored look. Even the episodes that weren't giving us Ahsoka Tano, weren't giving us big reveals, were giving us so much. And obviously, we get Chapter 16. An episode that so many people focus on, obviously our very end, with the triumphant return of Luke Skywalker. But there was so much right with that episode. The Dark Troopers, menacing, scary. The Darksaber fight between Moff Gideon and Mando. So many things in this episode felt like a real worthy conclusion to our story. The Mandalorian Season 2 was an action-packed adventure, and in my opinion, it's our peak Star Wars experience. Combining tales of old and adventures of new, it really is my favorite Star Wars experience I've had in many years. The show went from Season 1 to where I was not even interested in it. I thought it was boring, I thought it was dragging, into Season 2 where it completely changed my mind, completely turned me 180. Got me excited for Star Wars. Really one of the reasons I started this channel again, just due to my excitement for everything Star Wars once again. I encourage you guys, no matter what happens with Disney, Star Wars, or Lucasfilms, or however upset you are, don't be afraid to give them a chance again, because there's an opportunity you might have a Mandalorian Season 2 experience, where you're someone like me who had no longer cared about the Disney trilogy, didn't really care about Season 1 of The Mandalorian, had really just kind of given up on Star Wars or really caring about it. With The Mandalorian Season 2, I was brought back in. With The High Republic, I have even more to look forward to. And it feels great to be back, and so much credit to the team working on this show and how they proved me wrong and how if I just would have been patient and really given it time, eventually I was rewarded for it. So great work to everyone involved. Thank you guys for stopping by and all of your support. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be back with some more Star Wars content coming up soon. Let me know what you think about this video down below. It's very different than other content I've had. This one took a lot more work. So let me know if you guys like it, and I'll be sure to make more in the future. Thanks, guys.